Hi there. I've got something really special to talk to you about today. So I want you to stick around with me until the very end because I'm going to share with you a secret tip to boost your chances of getting a US visa. Now, if you're like me, you probably dreamt of coming to America, whether for a better life or new opportunities or just the adventure of it all. The visa system here can be tough in America, and I've personally been through all that process. But today I want to focus on what I believe is one of the best and definitely the most free ways to make it to the United States, and that's the DV lottery. So we're going to break down how the US visa system works today, and I want to dive into the diversity visa lottery, a program that could be your ticket to achieving the American dream. I want to explain to you how it started, how it works, who is eligible, and what happens after you win. Trust me, it's not as complicated as it sounds. And by the end of the video, you will know exactly how it would work for you. Now, let me take a quick step back here for a minute. There are a bunch of different visas out there for people trying to come to the United States. I would think of student visa is one of them. We have the tourist visa is another one. We have a business visa, you name it. And trust me, I've tried all of them myself before. Let me tell you though, the process in acquiring all these visas can be tough. I first started this visa thing when I was, I think, 12 years of age. I was in secondary school, and my school was chosen at the time by a certain school in Wisconsin, a Catholic school in Wisconsin. And we belong to music, dance, and drama, so we used to be good at singing African cultures, dance, and drama. And so a group of 30 people was chosen, and I was among those people. When we went to the embassy, after 12 hours at that Ugandan embassy, we were all denied visas. That was my first test on the roughness of the American system. I tried again a student visa later on, and I tried a business visiting visa, coming on a conference, and that never panned out as well. But here's the thing, no matter how many times you try to get here in the United States, and I'm sure all of you out there have a story, many times you've tried and things don't work out. We all share one thing in common, and that's the deep desire to experience America. It's an incredible country, I'll tell you that. And I can confidently say it's the best decision I've ever made, hands down. But getting to the US, not easy, not even today. But to give you a bit of perspective, you've heard of caravans, right? And those are immigrants coming from deep south. Look at this map here. We have caravans of people coming from like Argentina, Brazil, Peru, and they cross over to the south. They cross over to the south, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, and these guys are walking on feet throughout for years, or rather for months and months, trying to cross the border and come to America. They make these dangerous treks, and they walk for miles under tough conditions, risking their lives just for a better life in America, And they always want to cross through Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, or California. Maybe you've not heard of this, but it's groups, hundreds. You can YouTube or Google search it. It's a lot of people. And leave alone that, every year people from all over the world take an extreme journey to cross the Mediterranean seas, jumping borders, coming to better life in Europe and other prosperous countries. But unfortunately, not everyone makes it, and it's heartbreaking to say, but thousands of immigrants die every year trying to reach a safer place. And why am I giving you all this perspective? I want to tell you that there is some sort of good news out here. There is some good, simpler way and a completely free way to potentially come to the United States legally. And that's through the DV lottery. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, the DV lottery system. Before you understand the DV lottery, let me give you a whole story, how this whole thing started. Back in 1990, the Immigration Act of 1990 was passed. So the intention of this act was to modernize immigration at the time. And that's pretty much 30 years ago. And so Senator Ted Kennedy of Massachusetts presented a bill And this bill had the DV lottery. And so the argument was at the time, you see, America is a port of people from all over the world. So I actually, as a matter of fact, I always wonder if somebody wants to fight America, say for example China or Russia, who are you fighting? Because the Russians are represented in big numbers, Chinese are represented in big numbers, Africans, we are represented in big numbers, Europe is represented in big numbers. So when you beat America, who of this ethnicity are you beating? You're technically, chances are you're actually even beating your own people. But so the argument was at the time that we have too many people from other countries at the time. Maybe Europe had a lot of representatives, and other South American countries had a lot of people here. So they wanted to have a balance of different walks of life. So they argued that they would set around every year 55,000 visas to offer to everyone out there in the rest of the world for countries that had less immigrants for the past 5 years. And those people would, fight and apply and qualify for what we call the DV lottery. So he presented the law, and the law passed. How does laws pass here? Again, I'm bringing you to this perspective, this story, so that you understand. And this is going to be important as we move forward. So American system has three legs, has three branches. We have the legislature, which is the Congress, and Congress has two branches. We have the House and we have the Senate. From the Congress, we have the executive branch, that's the president, and then we have the judicial. So when Senator Ted presented this law into the Senate at the time, it was supported by a bipartisan majority. So when it passes the Senate, it goes to the House. The House also passed it with over 50%. So it went to the president, and President H.W. Bush, the father of the later President George W. Bush, passed this into law. And this is where it gets interesting, and this is why you need to know. It's not easy to repeal this law. The judicial system has nothing to do with it because it's not against the Constitution in the first place. But so, though presidents have tried to go away with this, how as I'm going to show you, they cannot, because you have to go through the Senate and you have to go through the House in order to achieve that. But presidents have power here. They can influence how this act or this law of us getting these DV lotteries is actually implemented, or the policies around it. I want to give you an example that this can actually come into reality. And during the presidency of Donald Trump, he tried as much as possible to replace the DV lottery with a merit-based immigration system. Actually, there was an attempt to pass this law, the RAISE Act, Reforming American Immigration for a Strong Economy Act. And this was meant to reduce overall legal migration in America. Like, oh no, we have too many people, we have to reduce the numbers. And one law that this law was after was the DV Lottery Immigration Act of 1990. Fortunately for you and me, it never passed. But over his tenure, he made it a little bit harder, and by introducing stricter vetting policies and security measures, where I remember when he said, countries from Arabic countries and they had terrorism, and so it was harder for them to kind of jump on this DV lottery and so on and so forth. You see where I'm going. So while that can happen, the good news is we still have a chance. Me and you still have a chance. The DV lottery is here every year, and so when it's here, that means apply, jump on the ship. It doesn't matter what happened the previous years, you need to get on the ship. So let's talk about, now that we have a little bit of history and understanding how this DV lottery came to be, what is the application process, right? There are a couple of things you need to understand before you apply. Number one, your country of birth. And the best way to find about if your country is one of those in the program is you come to the main website, which this DV lottery website, which I'm going to give you in the links below in the description. But you come here, and in most cases they'll give you the instructions, and this happens every year. If I go on these instructions here, there's always a PDF attachment. And when you click on that, for example, this year for DV 2026, natives of the following countries and areas are now eligible to apply, because more than 50,000 natives of these countries immigrated to the United States in the previous 5 years. So they give a list of countries, you know. And the other thing, best way to find out also, if you come and actually apply, it will automatically, and try to put in a country, it will automatically kick you out. But I want to make another video, and check the description below, where I'm going to go through the process of how to apply, and also how to check your status. So make sure you check that video after you watch this, after having an understanding of this DV lottery in this video. So I'm not gonna waste a lot of time on this, but the country of origin is important, because if your country is not a participant, you can never be in this program. So, but let's say, for example, your country is among the countries that are favored to be in this DV lottery. The second thing you need to understand is the qualifications, your personal qualifications. Number one, you need to have a high school education. You know, a high school education means successful completion of a formal course of elementary and secondary school. Like a lot of British colonized countries like East Africa, we have secondary. I don't know about other countries, but it's an equivalent of a 12-year course in the United States. The second one, this is where there is a little bit of a gray area here, is the work experience. If you're qualifying with the work experience, you must have 2 years of experience in the last 5 years in an occupation which by the US Department of Labor definitions requires at least 2 years of training or experience. So if you've been at a job for over 2 years, you can literally apply. Even if you've not, you can reason you've been at that job of yours for at least 2 years. If you're good with those, then you're good to apply. And now, like I mentioned, I'm going to show you the details on how to apply for the DV lottery in the next video, on how to check your status. So make sure you check it out. But this DV lottery opens up every year. So every year, look out around October, early October. Like I'm making this recording in October, so around this time to November, early November, you know, around, for example, if we check at the website this year when I'm making this recording, but for future reference you can also reference the same months. It's always been the same month, around October 2nd to November 5th each year. That's when the application process happens. And when you have the status check, once you apply, you need to come back next year around May to actually check for your status. Once your application is done, you'll get a confirmation number. It will look like something like this nature: entry name, confirmation number, year of birth, and the digital signature. You know, so you keep this safe. Make sure you keep it safe in whatever means. I always like to put in one on email, write one down, and then actually take a screenshot, whereby I can never lose it. But you come back, check for your status on a website like this right here. You check your status. 2 answers you will get. The very first answer you're gonna get is gonna be, based on the information provided, you've not been selected for further processing for the electronic diversity visa program at this time. Please verify, blah 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 blah. I have another story for you here, and I don't want you to lose heart when you see such a message, right? What I always do, and what I've heard, I will try again after a month or two, see if it's still the same, and I will try a third time and see if it's still the same message, because I've heard of stories where people say sometimes the status change depending on how many people are still in the program or not. It is rare, but it's possible. But again, if you fail and you've not been selected message, try next year. Why am I saying so? I've been in the United States for 10 years now, and since I came through this program, by the way, I came through the diversity visa program, and I guess I was a little bit lucky, because what happened, I've met a friend in Kampala, in a city that of my capital city of my country, Uganda, and I was walking the streets. I see this gentleman I haven't seen like in 3 years. So I'm like, hey, excuse me, Tony. His name Tony, and I'm like, hey, what's up? What's going on with you? So Tony didn't have the time to talk to me, but he's like, can you walk with me, because I need to register for something real quick. So we went on, had a conversation. Once he was registering, I was looking at what he's doing, and I'm like, what is that you're doing? Tells me about the DV lottery. I didn't know about it. I'm like, can I put in an application? Lucky for me, it was a studio and it had an internet cafe. I took a quick picture last minute, last day in November, and then once I took that picture, applied, kept my confirmation. When I checked in May, guess what? I was selected. So I would say that was a miracle for me. But when I got selected, I made sure I told everybody around me, and every year I try to make sure, and that's why I'm making a video out of it. Over the years, first was my cousin. 7 years later, trying and reminding him every year to keep trying, he got selected. He went through the process. And I've had, first off, I think 4 or 5 people, but I'm telling everyone I can in WhatsApp groups and everywhere. But what I'm trying to say is, randomly every year somebody gets selected, no matter how many times they've tried. You could be selected the first time you're hearing this video, or you could be selected 10 years down the road. As long as the presidency or the law allows the DV lottery and it still runs, apply for it. Second message you're gonna get is gonna be this message: you have been randomly selected for further processing in a diversity immigration visa program for the fiscal year. This was the year, but the message is gonna look similar. You will have a link. On that link, you need to click on it, and whatever it says, you need to do it immediately. I mean immediately. Why am I saying so? There are 55,000 visas given in a year for hundreds and hundreds for the whole world, minus a few countries. But technically the whole year is competing, so millions and millions are applying for the same thing. The one biggest mistake you don't want to make is, once you've been selected, sit on your hands and take your time, because at this time it's a struggle. A lot of people make a mistake thinking, okay, I've been selected, that means I got the visa, I'm going to America, I have to sell everything I got. You are mistaken, my friend. You're mistaken very much so. So if you're watching this video, you are at luck, because I'm going to tell you a couple of steps of what you need to do to improve your chances. Number 1, respond immediately. Number 2, if you applied as a single person and you putting in these forms that you've been requested to submit, do not change. If you're given any other forms that you need to fill out, whatever process that you need to fill out, do not change, please. This is where a lot of people make the mistake. Then they remember the sister or a friend who says, oh, you've been selected, can you please add me on this application so I can come to America with you. America is smart about it lately, and a lot of people are losing their chances of ever even getting this DV lottery, because by trying to add somebody, they are considered scammers. And you could be right. Chances of, say, a hypothetical situation, you literally have a wife, you literally have a child. What I would say, continue claim you're single. Continue saying you're single, and then come to America and then apply for your family. But let's say you've decided to add your wife and your children, and you can practically prove it, then add that information at this time. But make sure you do it fast and quick. And remember, all this is free, right? All this is free. You don't have to pay anything. You will, at this point, once you submit your application, your contacts will be KCCA. That's called the Kentucky Consular Center. I'm going to leave the link below. Why am I mentioning this? You gotta make sure. We're talking of May. We checked our status. We've been selected. 2 or 3 months down after that, what I've done for my friends, and what I recommend for you to do, my friends who have been selected for this visa, no one has ever been denied a visa. And why? Because we are on top of this. So once you submit all the forms, you need to make sure you, at least every month or every 2 weeks, you send an email to KCCA. Hey, I did apply. I sent all the forms that you requested. What is the status of my case? Of course, you have to have your confirmation, add all that information in the email. As a matter of fact, let me check real quick if I have a copy of an email. If I have it, then you guys are lucky, because I want to give you everything here, okay? So let's hypothetical situation, say you send out the forms. What you need to do from this time going forward is you need to make sure you send out constant emails to KCCA. I just want to know the status of my application, and whatever information you have, you need to add your case number, your name, date of birth, and the country of chargeability. And KCCA always going to respond. chances are they will hypothetically say, we received your email, give us some time, and they'll give you what you need to do. Or if they have an update for you, after constantly reaching out to them, you will get something like this. If you're in the United States, you don't have to deal with KCCA, Kentucky Consular Center. You will just have to change your status from your visa to a green card. And if you have a family, you just have to apply for them to come and join you. But for the majority of us who are not in the United States, your communication is primarily going to be with KCCA. Number two, and these are things a lot of people don't know, once they apply, they send the forms, as everything is good to go, they will wait for an answer. That's the biggest mistake you can ever do. Do not wait for an answer from KCCA. Always go to your platform here, check status, check out with the KCCA and find where your status is at. And when KCCA says they have sent your case to the embassy, find out which embassy it is. As a matter of fact, not all embassies have immigration consulates, or not all embassies work with immigration cases. For example, in East Africa, we all go to Nairobi. So you gotta make sure you understand that get the number for Nairobi, a consulate, get the email address, and reach out to them. When is my visa interview? When am I scheduled? It doesn't matter if you call them 2, 3, 4 times. That's their job. There somebody will answer after you ask repeatedly. If you don't ask, think about it. Every year, the green card visas end in September, and when September passes, you are done. You are done. You just lost your entire chance. So what does it cost that you really reach out and find out? But before even that interview, you have to have a medical checkup. That's why you need to reach out, and so they can schedule you ahead before September, and so you can have a little bit of room to breathe as well. But now, same hypothetical situation, KCCA sends your cases to the embassy, and the embassy reaches out to you with a scheduled date. Next thing you need to do, you need to go for your medical checkup. I hate to say this because no one has control over their health, but make sure your health is good, especially TB. TB, I hear, has a window of around 3 months. So if you have TB and your visa date in August, in September, the window closes, the visas will never wait for you. You just lost. So you want to make sure you're healthy. And you don't go to any hospital. Ask at the embassy once the interview is scheduled, where can I go for my medical checkups? And they will tell you where to go. In my case in Uganda, we had to go to Nairobi. Save some money. Once the process starts and you're talking KCCA, you've submitted your paperwork, begin saving some money. And because you're gonna have to pay for your medical records between $100 to $500, depending on how many things they have to check you for. And then you have to pay for your own visa. If you have a spouse and kids, you're gonna have to pay a little bit more. That's why you need to begin saving. Why would you tell anybody? Because you don't know if you're gonna get it anyway. So don't tell anybody. It's your secret until you actually get a visa. So you had your medical examinations, you passed it. Now it's time to go to the embassy. Here is another thing, and which a lot of people don't know. And we did have this before, but because many presidents are trying to make this a little harder for immigrants, they introduced what we call an affidavit of support. What an affidavit of support is, like an American taxpayer. It doesn't have to be an American citizen, but the taxpayer who's paying taxes with the forms that prove he paid taxes will sign up a form which is called an affidavit of support. And what it says is that I'll support Mr. ABCD and family when they enter the United States. I'll cater for the food, I'll cater for the clothing, I'll cater for their well-being while they're here. Because US wants to know you're not going to be a burden to the US. And so an affidavit of support is needed. And if you don't have it, try to Google online. I hear there are people who sell it for a price. If that's the only impediment for you to getting that visa find means, reach out, Facebook chat rooms or Instagram chat room for immigrations, US DV immigrations, and maybe somebody's out there selling the affidavit, and which in most cases is going to work because they don't call the other person, they just have to see. So, but let's say you have the medical, you had the interview, and then you provided your affidavit to support. You're not going to come out with a visa, but you're going to come up with a slip that shows you the instructions to follow. And what happens is the embassy will send a bunch of documents in an envelope, which you should never open, to either FedEx or DHL or whatever courier that you choose. And in Nairobi, as an example, you would choose to stay, because now you have to come from Kampala. Think about it, Uganda, that's like, I don't know, maybe 500 kilometers. And then sometimes if you have relatives in Kenya, you stay and wait. If you don't have, you can speak with whoever the courier is to post to them, or you can choose whatever means you choose to go and pick those documents. You need to present those documents to the officer at the point of entry in America. And once you come and present them, it's going to take a month or two. They'll send you a green card, and then you will apply for Social Security using that green card. And you can start working in America as an immigrant, legal, without hiding from anybody. So last but not least, I wanted to speak about this at the very end. There is an advantage of applying with your spouse. If you have the means and you have the money and the resources, apply, because it's like killing two birds with one stone. Why? Because if you apply and add her or add him, if they get selected, you automatically get selected as well. If they don't and you win and you've added them, they automatically get selected as well. So yeah, I would encourage you, if you're not married, get married prior to October, and make sure you apply with your spouse, because they could be blessed, and you could come with them, which I've seen happen with a lot of people coming here with their spouses. But you have to make sure the financial muscle is there, because things involve money. And as a matter of fact, I want to say this, if coming to America is not a bed of roses. You're not going to come here and start working immediately. Don't even think of that perspective. A lot of people have, me inclusive, before I came here in America, I thought I was going to start working the next week or the next couple of days. That's not always the case. So save enough money when you come to America, because the currency and how things are expensive here. As a minimum, you need around $2,000 to $3,000 to survive in a month in America. So I'm not scaring you, but you gotta know that ahead of time, not to overwhelm yourself, So if you can come alone, if you get lucky and you can come alone, the better, because then you don't have the baggage of taking care of other human beings when you're all not working. I think that marks everything. I think I've talked about everything. If there's anything I've left, please comment below, and don't forget to watch the video on how to apply step by step way on applying for this DV lottery. But if you find value in any way, support me by liking and subscribing to my channel. And if you get a visa in the future or now after hearing me speak out this, don't forget to hit me up in the comments below, or my email is somewhere here, and tell me about it. And if you have anything that you want to share with everybody, put it in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. One love.
Good to hear.